Husband hides to overhear a secret and can't believe it when James Harrison hadn't been able to sleep for weeks. His wife was different, distant, and he needed to find out what was going on. It was during an apparently normal breakfast that everything really started to fall apart. Eleanor picked up her phone, saw a notification, and her face went pale. She got up quickly from the table, knocking over her glass of juice. "I need to take this," she murmured, hurrying out to the bedroom. James stood there holding his coffee cup. That scene repeated itself almost every day now. The whispered conversations, the sudden exits, the distant looks. He tried to keep eating, but the food wouldn't go down. He got up slowly and walked to the bedroom door. It was slightly ajar. "No, it can't be today. He'll be home," he heard Eleanor say softly. James's heart raced. He backed away before she noticed his presence. He returned to the kitchen, pretending everything was normal, but his hands were trembling. When Eleanor came back, her eyes were red. "Is everything okay?" he asked, trying to sound casual. "Yes, just a friend with problems," she replied, without looking him in the eyes. James knew that tone. It was the same one she used when she lied about small things, like eating the last piece of cake or forgetting to pay a bill. But this time, it seemed like something much bigger. The following days were torture. James watched Eleanor's every move, every call, every message. She started leaving the house more often, always with ready-made excuses. She'd go to the salon, go shopping, visit friends, but she'd come back in the same clothes, without any shopping bags, with a scent he didn't recognize. One afternoon, while she was in the shower, James picked up her phone, which she'd left on the bed. His hands were sweating as he tried to figure out the password. He tried their anniversary date. Wrong. Their wedding date. Wrong. He was about to give up when he remembered her mother's birthday. The screen unlocked. His heart pounded. There were messages from a number with no saved name. He started reading, but the sound of the shower stopping made him freeze. Quickly, he took a photo of the screen with his own phone and put hers back in place. He left the bedroom seconds before Eleanor opened the bathroom door. That night, locked in his office, James zoomed in on the photo he'd taken. The messages were short but devastating. "Tomorrow, 3 o'clock. Same place?" "Yes." "I can't keep going like this." "I know, but it's not time yet." James felt his stomach churn. 23 years of marriage. 23 years building a life together. And now this. He needed concrete proof before confronting her. It couldn't just be paranoia, but the evidence was right there, cold and clear on the phone screen. The next day, Eleanor announced she was going to the beauty salon in the afternoon. James pretended he had an important meeting and left the house before her. But he didn't go to work. He parked the car 2 blocks ahead and waited. Half an hour later, he saw Eleanor leave the house and get into her car. She didn't go to the salon. She headed in the opposite direction. James followed her, keeping his distance. His heart was pounding hard in his chest. Eleanor drove for almost 40 minutes until she reached a neighborhood he didn't know well. She parked in front of a discreet commercial building. James parked further ahead and watched her go in. He waited a few minutes, then got out of the car. In the building's lobby there was a list of businesses, law offices, medical practices, a dentist, a real estate agency. Any of them could be her destination. He didn't have the courage to go up. He went back to the car and waited another 2 hours until he saw her leave. Eleanor looked tired, sad. She wiped her eyes before getting into her car. That night was one of the worst in James's life. Eleanor came home saying the salon was packed and it took longer than expected. He just nodded. During dinner, he barely managed to eat. Eleanor was quiet too. The silence between them was heavy, laden with unspoken things. "James, we need to talk," she said suddenly. He froze. This was it. She was going to tell him. She was going to ask for a divorce. She was going to destroy everything. "About what?" he managed to ask. Eleanor opened her mouth, hesitated, then shook her head. "Never mind. It's nothing." "Eleanor, if something's wrong, You can tell me." "There's nothing wrong," she replied too quickly. "I'm just tired." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, go ahead and leave a like, and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us, who are just starting out. Now, continuing. James didn't sleep that night. He tossed and turned, listening to Eleanor breathing beside him. She seemed awake too, but neither of them said a word. When dawn broke, he had already made a decision. He needed to know the truth, no matter what it cost. At the company, James could barely concentrate. His secretary, Mrs. Gable, a woman in her mid-60s who had worked with him for over 15 years, noticed that something was wrong. "Mr. Harrison, are you all right?" she asked, walking into his office with some documents. "I'm fine, Mrs. Gable, just a little tired." "Forgive my intrusion, but I've known you for a long time. I can tell when something is bothering you." James looked at her. Mrs. Gable had always been like a second mother to him. After his own mother passed away, she had naturally taken on that role. Maybe he could trust her. "It's Eleanor," he finally said. "I think she's hiding something from me." Mrs. Gable sat in the chair across from his desk. "Have you talked to her?" "I tried. She denies everything. But I know something is wrong, the secret phone calls, the unexplained outings. Yesterday I followed her. She went to an office building and stayed there for 2 hours. And you think—" "I don't know what to think, Mrs. Gable. My father went through this, my mother betrayed him, and he never recovered. He became paranoid, suspicious of everything and everyone. It was the beginning of the end for him. I swore I would never go through that. But now—" "Mr. Harrison, you are not your father, and Mrs. Harrison is not your mother. I've known her for years. She doesn't seem like the kind of person who would do that." "I used to think so too. But people change, Mrs. Gable. Or maybe we never truly knew them." Mrs. Gable sighed. "Then find out the truth. But don't do what your father did. Don't let suspicion destroy you before you know what's really going on." James knew she was right, but the suspicion was already eating away at him inside. Each passing day, the doubt grew stronger. He began to notice things he had never paid attention to before. Eleanor had lost weight in recent months. She had deep, dark circles under her eyes. Sometimes, when she thought he wasn't looking, she would stand still, staring off into space. 2 days later, Eleanor received a call during dinner. She answered, and her face grew tense. "I understand. All right. I'll go," she said, hanging up right after. "Who was that?" James asked. "My mother. She's not feeling well. I need to go over there." "Do you want me to come with you?" "No need. You worked all day. I'll handle it." She grabbed her purse and left quickly. James sat at the table, staring at his half-eaten plate. Something about that call wasn't right. The tone of Eleanor's voice, the rush to leave. He picked up his phone and called his mother-in-law. "Hello, Mrs. Margaret. It's James." "James, dear. Is everything all right?" "Everything's fine. Are you feeling okay?" "I'm great, thank God. Why do you ask?" "Eleanor said you called that you weren't feeling well." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "No, dear. I didn't call her today. It must have been a mistake." James thanked her and hung up. His hands were shaking. Eleanor had lied right to his face. So where had she really gone? He grabbed the car keys and left. He didn't know where to go, but he couldn't just sit still. He drove aimlessly for a few minutes until an idea came to him. The hotel where they'd spent their honeymoon, 23 years ago. It was 15 minutes away. A small but elegant boutique hotel, the Heritage Inn. They went back every year on their anniversary, but their anniversary had been 2 months ago. James drove there, his heart racing. When he reached the parking lot, he saw Eleanor's car. She was there, at their hotel. The place that was special to the two of them, with someone else. He parked and just sat there, unable to get out of the car. His hands gripped the steering wheel tightly. He thought about going inside, about looking for her, about catching her in the act. But something held him back. Fear, maybe. Fear of confirming what he already suspected. He sat there for almost an hour. Then he saw Eleanor come out. She was alone. She walked slowly, wiping her eyes. James slumped down in his seat so he wouldn't be seen. He waited for her to get in her car and drive away. Only then did he breathe. He got home before she did. When Eleanor arrived, half an hour later, he was in the living room, pretending to watch TV. "How's your mother?" he asked, without taking his eyes off the screen. "Better. It was just a headache." Another lie. James felt the anger rise in his throat, but he held it in. Not yet. It wasn't time yet. "That's good," he said simply. That night, after Eleanor fell asleep, James picked up her phone again. There was a new message from the unknown number. "Thank you for today. I know it's not easy for you. I have to do this. I don't have a choice." "I understand. Next week, same time?" "Yes. See you then." James felt something break inside him. Those were the messages of someone having an affair, clear, direct. He took pictures of everything and went back to bed. Eleanor turned over in her sleep, draping her arm across him. James went rigid, but he didn't move. How could she sleep peacefully while destroying everything they'd built? The following days were torture. James watched Eleanor during breakfast, during dinner, looking for signs. She seemed increasingly tired, increasingly sad. Several times he caught her looking at him with an expression he couldn't decipher. Sadness, guilt, fear. On Friday, James made a decision. He was going to confront her, but not directly. He wanted to catch her in the act. He wanted the cold, hard truth. He told Eleanor he needed to travel for work over the weekend. He was going to Chicago. He had an important meeting early Monday morning. "All right," said Eleanor. "When are you coming back?" "Monday night, probably." She just nodded. She seemed relieved. Saturday morning, James packed his bags and said goodbye to Eleanor. She kissed him on the cheek, a quick, cold kiss. He got in the car and drove off. But he didn't go to Chicago. He drove to the parking lot of a nearby mall and just sat there waiting. 2 hours later, he got a text from Eleanor. "Have a safe trip, love. Drive carefully." James didn't reply. At 3 in the afternoon, he went back home. He parked on the street behind the house and came in through the back door using the spare key. The house was silent. Eleanor wasn't in the living room or the kitchen. He walked slowly up the stairs. His heart was pounding so hard, he was sure she could hear it. The bedroom door was closed. James pressed his ear against it. He could hear Eleanor's voice. She was on the phone. I know, she was saying, but he can't find out. Not like this, not yet." James felt his blood boil. He pressed his ear harder against the door. "Monday then? At the hotel?" Eleanor continued. "All right, I'll be there. Yes, I understand the risks, but I don't have a choice. I have to do this." There was a pause. "He can never know. You promised me you'd be discreet. If he finds out, I don't know what will happen. He'll leave me, I know he will." Her voice was choked with emotion. James stepped away from the door, trembling. He couldn't listen anymore. He went down the stairs quickly and slipped out through the back door. He got back in the car and just sat there, hands on the wheel, trying to process what he had heard. She had just made plans to meet someone, at the hotel, on Monday. And she was sure he would leave her if he found out, because she knew she was wrong. She knew she was betraying his trust, their marriage, everything. James started the car and drove off. He didn't know where to go. He ended up driving to his sister Sarah's house. She opened the door, surprised. "James, I thought you'd left on your trip." "I cancelled," he lied, stepping inside. Sarah could tell something was wrong. "What happened?" "It's Eleanor. She's cheating on me, Sarah. I'm sure of it." Sarah led him into the living room and made him sit down. "Do you have proof?" "I do. Messages, lies, secret meetings. I just heard her making plans to meet someone at our hotel. The hotel where we spent our honeymoon." "Did you talk to her?" "No, but I will. On Monday. I'm going to show up at that hotel and end this once and for all." Sarah took her brother's hand. "James, are you sure? I mean absolutely sure. Because an accusation like that can destroy a marriage, even if it isn't true." "I heard her, Sarah. With my own ears." Her making plans, saying I can't find out, that I'll leave her if I discover the truth. What more do I need? Context, maybe. Have you considered there could be another explanation? What other explanation could there be? She's having an affair. It's obvious. Sarah sighed. I don't know, James. I've known Eleanor for over 20 years. She doesn't seem like the kind of person who would do something like that. That's what everyone says until they find out the truth. James spent the weekend at his sister's house. He couldn't go home, couldn't watch Eleanor pretend everything was fine. Sarah tried to convince him to talk to his wife before jumping to conclusions, but he was determined. Monday morning, James went straight to the hotel. He arrived early, before 2 in the afternoon, the time Eleanor usually scheduled her meetings. He stayed in the car, watching the entrance. At 2:30, he saw her car pull up. Eleanor got out and went into the hotel. She looked nervous, glancing around. James waited another 15 minutes. Then he walked into the hotel. At the front desk, he asked if Eleanor Harrison had made a reservation. The receptionist checked. Yes, sir. Room 507. Can I help you with anything? No, thank you. James went up to the 5th floor. His heart was pounding out of rhythm. When he reached room 507, he stopped. He could hear voices inside, Eleanor's voice and a man's. He couldn't make out what they were saying, but they were talking quietly. He knocked on the door. The voices went silent. A few seconds later, Eleanor opened it. Her face went white. James, what are you doing here? I should be asking you that, he said, pushing past her and stepping inside. In the room was a man in his 50s, wearing glasses and a discreet suit. Papers were scattered across the bed, and an open folder sat on the table. Who are you? James demanded, his voice heavy with anger. The man looked at Eleanor, then at James. My name is Dr. Robert Miller. I'm a neurologist. James looked back and forth between them. A neurologist? What kind of story is this, Eleanor? What lie have you cooked up now? James, please let me explain, Eleanor said, tears streaming down her face. Explain what? That you're here in a hotel room with another man, that you've been lying to me for months, that you make secret plans and do everything you can to keep me from finding out. It's not what you think. Then tell me what it is, Eleanor. Tell me why you're destroying our marriage. Dr. Robert stepped forward. Mr. Harrison, I understand your anger, but I need you to calm down and listen to what your wife has to say. I'm not listening to anything else. I saw the messages, Eleanor. I heard you on the phone. I know you're having an affair. Eleanor covered her face with her hands, sobbing. I'm not having an affair, James. I swear I'm not. Dr. Miller is my doctor. I'm sick. James took a step back. James took a step. Sick? I have a neurological condition. I found out 6 months ago. I've been coming here for appointments because his office is at this hotel. He sees private patients here to maintain discretion. James looked at the man. Is that true? Yes, sir. I can show you the medical reports if you'd like. And why didn't you tell me, Eleanor? Why did you hide this from me? Eleanor wiped away her tears. Because I was afraid of your reaction. Your father. He had dementia, James. And you always said you couldn't go through that again, that you couldn't watch someone you love lose their memory, become someone else. But you're not my father. I know. But I was scared. Scared that you would leave me. Scared that you wouldn't want to deal with it. Scared of becoming a burden. James felt his legs go weak. He sat on the edge of the bed. What kind of condition is it? Dr. Miller picked up some papers. Your wife has a rare form of progressive cognitive degeneration. It's not Alzheimer's, but the symptoms are similar. It mainly affects short-term memory and over time can affect motor coordination. Is it curable? There is no cure, but there are treatments that can significantly slow its progression. That's why Mrs. Harrison has been coming here regularly. We're doing intensive follow-up. James looked at Eleanor. 6 months? You've been dealing with this alone for 6 months? I wasn't alone. My sister knows. She came with me to some appointments. And Dr. Miller has been incredible. But I couldn't tell you, James. I just couldn't. And the messages, the secret meetings. They were appointments, tests, therapy sessions. I lied to you, saying I was going to the salon or shopping. Anything so you wouldn't suspect. James ran his hands over his face. And this hotel? Why here? Because it's special to us. Because I wanted to record videos for you. Messages for when I don't remember anymore. I wanted to record them in the place where we were happiest. Eleanor's words hit James like a punch. He looked at her, saw the desperation in her eyes, the fear, the sadness, and he realized how wrong he had been, how quickly he had jumped to conclusions, how easily he had believed the worst. "Eleanor, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry." He got up and hugged her. She broke down in tears in his arms. Dr. Miller discreetly left the room, giving the couple privacy. James held Eleanor tightly, feeling her fragility, the weight she had been carrying alone. "Why didn't you trust me?" he asked softly. "Because I saw what happened to your father. I saw how it destroyed you and your mother. I saw how it changed you. You were always so strong, James, so confident, but when you talked about your father, you became someone else, someone scared, lost. I couldn't do that to you again. But I love you, Eleanor. I will always love you, no matter what happens. I know, but love isn't always enough. Sometimes we have to protect the people we love, even if it means hiding the truth." They stayed there in each other's arms for long minutes. Then Dr. Miller knocked on the door and came back in. "Mr. Harrison, I know this is a lot to process, but I need you to understand the severity of the situation. Mrs. Harrison is in the early stage of the disease. The treatment we're doing can give her years, maybe decades, of quality of life. But she needs support. She needs emotional stability. Stress can accelerate the progression of symptoms. I'll be here. I'll do whatever it takes." "Great. Then let's talk about the next steps." Dr. Fernando explained the treatment in detail. Eleanor needed to take daily medication, attend cognitive therapy sessions 3 times a week, and undergo monthly exams to monitor the progression of the disease. There was also an experimental protocol that could help, but it was risky and expensive. "How much does it cost?" James asked. "The full protocol? About $150,000. We'll do it. The cost doesn't matter." Eleanor held his hand. "James, that's a lot of money." "You're priceless, Eleanor. We're going to do the treatment. We're going to do everything possible." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, go ahead and hit like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. In the following days, James dove into research about Eleanor's condition. He read medical articles, talked to specialists, and looked into alternative treatments. He discovered the disease was rare, affecting fewer than 5,000 people in the United States, and studies on it were still limited. Mrs. Gable, his secretary, noticed the change in him. One morning she came into his office with coffee. "Mr. Harrison, you seem different. Lighter, I'd say. Did you manage to sort things out with Mrs. Eleanor?" James told her everything. "Mrs." Gable listened in silence, nodding her head. "Poor dear, carrying that burden alone for so long." "I was a fool, Mrs. Gable. I thought the worst of her. I even confronted her, accused her of cheating." "You acted out of fear, not malice. What matters is that now you know the truth and can help her. But what if it's too late? What if the stress I caused accelerated the disease? There's no point dwelling on the past. You need to focus on the present, on what you can do now to help your wife." Mrs. Gable was right. James began to reorganize his life to be more present. He delegated more tasks at work, cancelled unnecessary trips, and started accompanying Eleanor to her medical appointments. It was at one of those appointments that Dr. Robert Miller revealed something concerning. "The latest tests show the disease is progressing faster than we expected. The beta-amyloid protein levels in her brain have increased significantly." "What does that mean?" James asked. "It means we need to intensify the treatment. We're going to start the experimental protocol immediately." Eleanor was pale. "And the risks? They're significant. The treatment can cause severe side effects, nausea, temporary mental confusion, in some cases even seizures. But without it, the progression of the disease will be much faster." "How much time do I have?" Eleanor asked, her voice trembling. "It's hard to say. Every case is unique. But without treatment, we could be looking at months before you start having more severe memory lapses." James held Eleanor's hand. "We're going to do the treatment. We're going to fight." The protocol began the following week. Eleanor had to stay hospitalized for 3 days for the first phase. James never left her side. He watched her get sick, vomiting, shaking with fever. Every moment was torture, but he stayed there, holding her hand, wiping her face, whispering words of encouragement. On the 3rd day, when she finally improved, Eleanor looked at him with tear-filled eyes. "You don't have to do this, James. You don't have to stay here watching me like this. Where else would I be? I love you, Eleanor. In sickness and in health, remember. We made that vow. But I never wanted to be a burden. You never were, and you never will be a burden. You're my wife, my partner, the person I chose to spend my life with. And I'll be here every step of this journey." Eleanor cried in his arms, all the emotions she had held back over the past few months finally pouring out. The fear, the anguish, the loneliness, all of it released right there, in that hospital room, in the arms of the man she loved. When she was discharged, James took Eleanor home. Your sister-in-law Claire was there waiting. She hugged her sister tightly. "I'm sorry for not telling you before," said Eleanor to James. "Claire knew. She went with me to several appointments. I tried to convince her to tell you," explained Claire, "but she was so afraid of your reaction. I understand now, and I'm grateful you were by her side when I couldn't be." In the following weeks, the couple's life fell into a new routine. Eleanor took her medications religiously. James started using an app to remind her of the times. She did cognitive therapy sessions, memory exercises, motor coordination activities. But the first signs of the disease's progression began to appear. One day Eleanor forgot where she had put the car keys. She searched for almost an hour until James found them in the refrigerator. She laughed nervously. "I swear I don't remember putting them there." "It's okay. It happens to everyone." But it wasn't something that happened to everyone, and they both knew it. Another day, Eleanor forgot the name of the neighbor she'd been talking to for years. She stood there, mid-conversation, her mind blank, desperately trying to remember. The neighbor, Mrs. Higgins, noticed the discomfort and discreetly changed the subject. Later, when the neighbor left, Eleanor burst into tears. "It's starting, James. The disease is taking over me." "No, it's okay. You were just distracted. Don't lie to me. I know what's happening. I can feel it. Every day it gets harder to remember simple things. Yesterday, I forgot where the supermarket we've been going to for 10 years is. I drove around the city until I found it." James hugged her. "We'll get through this, together. The treatment will work. It just needs time." But time was exactly what they didn't have. Each week, new lapses happened. Eleanor started writing everything down in a small notebook she carried in her purse. Appointments, people's names, addresses, even simple things like what she'd eaten for breakfast. One night, James woke up and didn't find her in bed. He got up worried and found her in the kitchen, sitting at the table, writing in the notebook by the lamplight. "Eleanor, are you okay?" She lifted her face. She had been crying. "I woke up and for a moment I didn't know where I was. I didn't recognize the room, the house. It took a few seconds until I remembered. And that terrified me, James. If I can forget where I live, what else will I forget?" He sat down beside her and picked up the notebook. It was full of notes, names, dates, events, and in the middle of it all, scattered phrases. "James loves me. I love James. My name is Eleanor Harrison. I'm 44 years old. I live at 523 Blossom Lane. My sister's name is Claire. My mother is Margaret." They were basic reminders, things she was afraid of forgetting. James felt his heart tighten. "You won't forget, Eleanor. I won't let you forget." "How can you be so sure?" "Because I'll be here every day reminding you of who you are, of who we are. We'll do this together." Eleanor rested her head on his shoulder. "I'm so scared, James. Afraid of waking up one day and not remembering you. Of looking at your face and seeing a stranger. That terrifies me. It won't happen. The treatment is working. Dr. Roberts said the results are promising. But what if it's not enough? What if one day I look at you and don't know who you are? Then I'll introduce myself again. I'll win you over again. I'll make you fall in love with me all over again if I have to." Eleanor smiled through her tears. "You would do that? 1,000 times. Because you are the love of my life, Eleanor. And nothing, not even this disease, will change that." They stayed there, wrapped in each other's arms in the kitchen until the sun began to rise. It was a new day, another day to fight, to love, to live. At Dr. Roberts' office the following week there was unexpected news. "The latest tests show a significant improvement," the doctor announced. "The disease's progression is slowing down. The experimental protocol is working better than we expected." James and Eleanor looked at each other, hardly believing it. "Does this mean she won't get worse?" James asked. "It means we've bought time. A lot of time, we hope. We can't predict how much, but the indicators are positive. If we maintain the treatment and Mrs. Eleanor keeps following all the guidelines, she could have years, maybe decades, of quality life." Eleanor began to cry. This time, tears of relief. "Am I going to be okay?" "You'll need to continue the treatment for the rest of your life. There will be difficult moments, but yes, with proper care, you can live a practically normal life." On their way out of the office, James hugged Eleanor tightly. I told you we would get through this. I'm sorry for not trusting you from the start, for hiding all of this. You had your reasons, and I had mine for being suspicious. But now we know the truth, and we'll face whatever comes together." But the journey was far from over. In the following months, new challenges arose. Eleanor had an adverse reaction to one of the medications and had to be rushed to the hospital. James went 3 days without proper sleep, at the hospital by her side. It was during that hospitalization that he discovered something that shocked him. When he went home to pick up some of Eleanor's belongings, he found a box hidden at the back of the closet. Inside were dozens of wrapped gifts, each with a note. "For our 25th anniversary. For when you finish your MBA. For Mother's Day, when I might not be here. For your 50th birthday." Eleanor had bought gifts in advance, gifts for future dates, knowing she might not be in a condition to choose them when the time came. Each gift had a note written in her handwriting, messages of love and affection. James opened one of the notes, his hands trembling. "My love, if you're reading this, it's because I couldn't be there to give you this gift in person. But I want you to know that when I bought it, I was thinking of you, of your smile, of your joy, of how much you mean to me. No matter if I don't remember right now, my heart will always know that you are the love of my life. Happy birthday." James broke down right there, on the bedroom floor, holding the gifts and the notes. He cried like he hadn't cried in years, for the pain Eleanor was going through, for the fear she had felt alone, for all the love she had for him, even knowing she could lose him. When he returned to the hospital, he brought the box. Eleanor was awake, still weak, but better. "I found this," he said, showing her the box. Eleanor blushed. "You shouldn't have seen that. Why didn't you tell me about this?" "Because it would make you suffer more. It was already hard enough dealing with the illness. I didn't want you thinking about what the future would be like. But these gifts, Eleanor, these messages, you were preparing not to be here. I was preparing not to be present. It's different. I wanted to make sure that even if my mind betrayed me, you would know how much I love you." James sat on the edge of the bed and held her hand. "You are the most amazing person I know. And I was an idiot for doubting you. You're not an idiot. You were scared, I understand. I was too. But now we're not alone in this anymore. We have each other, and we always will, no matter what happens." Eleanor squeezed his hand. "I love you so much, James, so much it hurts. I love you too, more than words can express." They stayed there, holding hands in silence. They didn't need words. The love between them was palpable, strong, unshakable. When Eleanor was discharged, James had a surprise prepared. I had spoken with his sister Sarah and his brother Michael, who was a doctor working abroad. "I found something that might help," said James. "There's an experimental program in the United States that's having incredible results, but it's expensive and requires Eleanor to be hospitalized for at least 3 months." 3 months? Eleanor's eyes widened. "I know it's a long time, but Michael managed to get you a spot. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And how much does it cost? James hesitated. $500,000, but I already sold some company stock. I have the money. James, no, you worked your whole life to build that company. You can't throw it all away because of me. I'm not throwing anything away. I'm investing in what matters most to me. You. But what if it doesn't work? What if it's a waste? Then at least we tried. At least we did everything in our power. I'm not going to live with the regret of not having tried to save you. Eleanor was in tears. I don't deserve you. Of course you do, and so much more. The decision was made. Eleanor would leave for the United States in 2 weeks. James would go with her, but he'd have to come back after getting her settled into the program. The company couldn't survive without him for 3 full months. The preparations were intense. Paperwork, visas, medical exams for the trip. Claire and Margaret helped with everything. Sarah offered her home in the United States for James to stay in during his visits. On the eve of the trip, James and Eleanor returned to the hotel where they had spent their honeymoon. This time there were no secrets, no lies, just 2 hearts facing a storm together. Remember the first time we came here? Asked Eleanor, looking out the bedroom window. How could I forget? You were so nervous, you spilled champagne on my shirt. Eleanor laughed. I was terrified. It was my first time and I didn't want to disappoint you. You've never disappointed me. Not once. They embraced, looking out at the illuminated city below. So many years had passed since that first night, so many changes, but the love between them remained strong, perhaps even stronger, now that they had faced a storm together. What do you think is going to happen? Asked Eleanor. I think you're going to be fine. You'll do the treatment, you'll get better, and we'll have many happy years ahead of us. And what if it's not like that? What if I get worse over there? What if I forget you while I'm away? Then I'll be there to remind you. I'll visit every week if I have to. I'll send messages every day. I'll do whatever it takes so you don't forget me. Don't forget us. Eleanor looked into his eyes. Promise you won't give up on me, even if it gets hard. I promise. In sickness and in health, remember, till death do us part. And even after that, if I can. They spent the night talking about memories, about the day they met at a party with mutual friends, about the proposal James made at a simple restaurant that meant everything to Eleanor, about the small but love-filled wedding, about the dreams they had shared, some fulfilled, others still to come. I still want to travel to Europe with you, said Eleanor. See the Eiffel Tower, eat real pizza in Italy, ride a gondola in Venice. And we will. As soon as you come back healed, we'll take that trip. Promise. I also want to get a dog. I've always wanted a dog, but we never had the time. Then we'll adopt one when you get back. And I want to renew our vows here at this hotel, the right way, with the truth between us. James smiled. Deal. We'll do all of that and so much more. Eleanor fell asleep in his arms that night. James stayed awake, watching her peaceful face in sleep, memorizing every detail, every curve, every expression line. He was afraid of what the future would bring, but he had hope too. Hope that love would be enough to overcome any obstacle. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, go ahead and leave a like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. The airport was crowded on the morning of the trip. James carried the luggage while Eleanor said goodbye to her family. Margaret hugged her daughter tightly, whispering words of encouragement. Claire tried to be strong, but her tears betrayed her worry. Take care of her, Claire asked James. With my life, he promised. The flight was long and tiring. Eleanor slept most of the time, her head resting on James's shoulder. He took the opportunity to review the documents for the experimental program, trying to understand every detail of the treatment she would receive. When they arrived in Massachusetts, Sarah was waiting for them at the airport. She hugged her brother and sister-in-law warmly. How was the trip? Smooth, James replied. Eleanor slept almost the whole time. Great. Do you need to rest before going to the hospital? No, Eleanor said. I want to get this over with. The hospital was impressive. Modern, clean, with state-of-the-art equipment. Dr. Sterling, the doctor in charge of the program, received them personally. Mrs. Harrison, it's a pleasure to meet you. Your brother-in-law told me about your case. We're going to do everything in our power to help you. Thank you for accepting me into the program. You're a perfect candidate. Your age, the stage of the disease, your response to the initial treatment, everything suggests you'll have excellent results here. Dr. Sterling explained the protocol in detail. It would be 3 months of intensive treatment. The first phase involved experimental medications that weren't available in the United States. The second phase included advanced therapies, brain stimulation, personalized cognitive exercises. The third phase would be monitoring and treatment adjustment. Are there risks? James asked. As with any experimental treatment, yes, but the results we've seen make it worthwhile. Of the last 20 patients who went through this program, 18 showed significant improvement. 2 remained stable, with no progression of the disease. None got worse. Those were encouraging statistics. Eleanor would be admitted the following day. James would have 1 week with her before he had to return to the United States. 1 week to say goodbye, to prepare for 3 months apart. That night at Sarah's house, James couldn't sleep. Eleanor was beside him, breathing softly, but he lay there, staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything that had happened over the past few months. How quickly everything had changed. How he had almost lost her because of his own insecurities. How he had almost destroyed their marriage before discovering the truth. The guilt still gnawed at him sometimes. If he had been more understanding, more confident, more present, maybe Eleanor wouldn't have had to hide everything on her own. "You're awake," Eleanor said suddenly. "Sorry, I didn't mean to wake you." "You didn't wake me. I wasn't sleeping either." "Scared?" "Terrified. What if it doesn't work, James? What if I get worse here, far from home, far from you?" "That won't happen. You're going to be fine, and I'll be here every week to visit you." "Every week? But it's so expensive." "I don't care about money. I only care about you." Eleanor turned to face him. "I love you so much. Sometimes I wonder what I did to deserve you." "You don't have to do anything. Just being you is more than enough." They kissed, a sweet kiss full of promises, a kiss that said everything words couldn't express. The next day, the admission was difficult. James helped Eleanor settle into her room, which was comfortable but still a hospital room. Eleanor tried to be strong, but he could see the fear in her eyes. "Everything's going to be fine," he repeated for the 100th time. "I know, it's just, it will be so strange being here alone for 3 months. You won't be alone. I'll be here every week, and you can call me whenever you want. Promise you won't forget me." James held her face with both hands. "Eleanor, listen. I could live 1,000 lives, and in every one of them I would love you. Nothing, absolutely nothing, could make me forget you. You're engraved on my heart, in my soul. We are one, you understand?" "One." Eleanor nodded, tears streaming down her face. They held each other until the nurse came to tell him it was time to go. The patients needed rest before starting treatment the next day. The first week was intense. James accompanied every appointment, every exam, every therapy session. He saw Eleanor go through painful procedures, saw her cry in frustration when she couldn't remember simple things in cognitive tests, saw her fight with every fiber of her being. But he also saw her strength, the determination in her eyes, the refusal to give up, the hope she kept alive even in the hardest moments. And that inspired him to be strong too. On the last day before returning to the United States, James spent hours at Grace Memorial Hospital. They talked about everything and nothing. They recalled happy moments, made plans for the future, laughed at silly jokes. "I need to tell you something," Eleanor said suddenly. "What?" "Before finding out about the illness, I had decided I wanted to have a child." James's eyes widened. "A child? We've never seriously talked about that." "I know. It was always a sensitive subject for you, but I had decided I was going to bring it up. And then came the diagnosis and, well, that's no longer possible." "Because of the treatment?" "Because of everything. The medications, the illness, the risk." Dr. Robert Miller was clear. A pregnancy could drastically accelerate the progression of symptoms. James didn't know what to say. He had never thought much about having children. He always thought the 2 of them were enough. But seeing the sadness in Eleanor's eyes made him realize how much this meant to her. "I'm so sorry," he said. "Don't be. I just wanted you to know. One more dream this illness stole from me. It's not the end. When you get better, we can think about adoption. There are so many children needing a home." Eleanor's eyes lit up. "You would do that? I would do anything for you. And if having a child in our lives is what you want, then that's what we'll do. But you always said you didn't want children." "I said a lot of things, but people change. I changed. This whole experience made me see what's really important in life, and what's important is you, your happiness, our future together. If a child is part of that future, then let's embrace it." Eleanor hugged him tightly. "You make me so happy, and you make me complete." The goodbye at the airport was devastating. James hugged Eleanor knowing he wouldn't see her in person for a week. 7 days seemed like an eternity. "Take care of yourself," he said. "You too, and don't overwork." "I won't. I promise." They kissed one last time before he had to go through security. James looked back several times, seeing Eleanor waving, until she disappeared from view. The flight back was torturous. James couldn't stop thinking about Eleanor alone at Grace Memorial Hospital. He called her as soon as the plane landed. "Hi, love. Did you arrive okay?" "Just landed. How are you?" "Good. I started a new phase of treatment today. It's tiring, but I'm managing." "That's great. I'll call you when I get home, okay?" "Okay, I love you." "I love you too. So much." At home, everything felt empty without Eleanor. James walked through the rooms, feeling her absence in every corner. In the bedroom, he found another notebook she had hidden. It was different from the other one. This one had only one thing written on the first page. "For James, in case I forget." He opened it with trembling hands. Page after page, Eleanor had written about their life, how they met, the first kiss, the proposal, the wedding, every anniversary, every important moment. It was a biography of their love, written from her perspective. But it wasn't just about the happy moments. She had also written about the arguments, the disagreements, the difficult times, and about how they always made up, always found their way back to each other. On the last page there was a message. "James, if you're reading this, it's because I forgot. I forgot you, us, everything we lived through together. And that breaks my heart just to imagine. But I want you to know a few things. First, I love you. Even if my mind doesn't remember, my heart knows. It always will. Second, don't give up on me. I know it will be hard. I know there will be moments when you'll want to run away, but please stay. Fight for me the way I would fight for you. Third, be happy. Even if I'm not here mentally anymore, I want you to be happy. Laugh, live, love. Because you deserve all the good things life can offer. And lastly, thank you. Thank you for loving me, for choosing me, for being by my side all these years. You made my life worth living. With all my love, Eleanor." James closed the notebook and let the tears fall. He cried for everything they had been through, for everything they would still go through, for the uncertainty of the future. But he also cried with gratitude, gratitude for having found a love so deep, so true. The following days were difficult. James threw himself into work to try not to think so much, but every free moment was dedicated to Eleanor. They talked on video calls every day. He saw her progress, the small improvements, but also the moments of frustration. "Today I forgot Dr. Sterling's name," she said on one of those calls. "I just stood there looking at him, knowing I knew him, but the name just wouldn't come. But did you remember later? He told me afterward. It was awful, James. It's like my brain is slowly disintegrating. But the treatment is working. Dr. Sterling said your test results are improving." "I know, but it's scary anyway." James wanted to be there with her. He wanted to hold her, comfort her. But all he could do was offer words through a screen. On Thursday of that week, he received a call from Dr. Sterling. "Mr. Harrison, we need to talk about your wife." James's heart stopped. "Is she okay? Did something happen?" "She's fine physically, but emotionally she's struggling. The isolation is being harder on her than we expected. She cries every night, has trouble sleeping. It's negatively affecting the treatment." "What can I do?" "Honestly, be here. I know you have work, commitments. But your wife needs you. And if we continue like this, the benefits of the treatment may not outweigh the emotional damage. I'll sort things out here and I'll be there by the weekend. Great. I believe your presence will make all the difference. James hung up and immediately started making calls. He needed to reorganize his schedule, delegate tasks, make sure the company would run smoothly in his absence. Mrs. Gable was essential in that. Don't worry, Mr. Harrison. I'll take care of everything here. Go be with your wife. That's where you need to be. Thank you, Mrs. Gable. I don't know what I'd do without you. You're doing the right thing. Mrs. Eleanor needs you, and you need her. We'll handle the rest. On Friday night, James was on the plane again. He hadn't told Eleanor. He wanted it to be a surprise. When he arrived at the hospital on Saturday morning, he asked a nurse not to tell her he was there. He wanted to see her reaction. Eleanor was in the room, sitting on the bed, looking out the window. She seemed smaller, frailer. James knocked softly on the door. Is there room for one more? Eleanor turned quickly, her eyes wide. James? What are you doing here? I came to see you. I missed you. She got out of bed and ran to embrace him. She collapsed into tears in his arms. I thought you were only coming next weekend. I changed my plans. You need me here, and I need to be near you. But what about work? It's taken care of. Mrs. Gable will handle everything. I'm staying here with you for as long as the treatment lasts. Eleanor looked at him, incredulous. All 3 months. All 3 months. I'm not going to let you go through this alone. But what about the company? And your life? You are my life, Eleanor. Everything else is secondary. They stayed in each other's arms for a long time. James could feel her body trembling with emotion. When they finally pulled apart, Eleanor's eyes were red, but there was a smile on her face. I don't even know what to say. You don't have to say anything. Just get better, that's all I ask. James's presence made all the difference. Eleanor had more energy during her therapies, more willingness during her cognitive exercises. The doctors noticed the change immediately. She's responding much better to the treatment, commented Dr. Sterling. Having you here was the best decision we could have made. James attended every session, every appointment. He learned about the disease in detail, about the treatments, about what to expect. But he also learned about hope, about how love could be healing, about how the presence of someone who cares could make all the difference. The weeks passed quickly. James established a routine. Early in the morning, he went to Sarah's house, worked remotely for a few hours, handling the most urgent company matters. Then he went to the hospital and stayed with Eleanor for the rest of the day. At night, he went back to work a little more before sleeping. It was tiring but rewarding. Seeing Eleanor improve day after day was worth any sacrifice. One day during a cognitive therapy session, something extraordinary happened. The therapist asked Eleanor to recall an important moment in her life. Eleanor closed her eyes, and when she opened them, there was a special sparkle in them. Our first kiss, she said, looking at James. It was at Sarah's birthday party. We were in the garden, away from everyone else. You were nervous, your hands were sweating. I was nervous too. And then you leaned in and kissed me. It was the most perfect kiss of my life. James felt his eyes well up. She remembered. In detail. Her memory was coming back. The therapist smiled. Excellent, Eleanor, let's continue. Try to remember another important moment. The proposal, Eleanor said immediately. It was at a simple restaurant, nothing fancy. You were so nervous you dropped the ring on the floor. I laughed and you turned red. But when you finally managed to ask, when you said you wanted to spend the rest of your life with me, it was the happiest moment of my life. Until that day, at least, because many other happy moments came after. The session continued, and Eleanor recalled moment after moment. Some memories came easily, others with effort, but they were there. They hadn't disappeared. They were just hidden, waiting to be brought back. That night, in the hospital room, Eleanor was excited. It's working, James. The treatment is really working. I'm remembering things I thought I had lost forever. I know. It was incredible to see you today. You know what else I remembered? The day you found out about my illness. The way you reacted when you thought I was cheating on you. I was so hurt in that moment. But now I understand. You were scared, afraid of losing someone else you love. I'm so sorry about that. I should have trusted you. No, I'm the one who should have trusted you from the beginning. I should have told you about the illness as soon as I found out. Maybe things would have been different. Maybe, but there's no point in thinking about what could have been. What matters is what we are now and what we'll be from here on. Eleanor agreed. Do you know what I want to do when I get out of here? What? I want to renew our vows, like you promised, at the hotel where we spent our honeymoon. I want to do it all over again, but this time with no secrets between us. Then that's what we'll do. As soon as you finish your treatment, we'll go back to the United States and renew our vows. And then we'll adopt a child. And then we'll travel to Europe. And we'll adopt a dog. And we'll live every day as if it were our last. They laughed together, making plans for the future. A future that, a few months ago, had seemed uncertain, but that now was full of possibilities. The weeks turned into months. The treatment advanced to the second phase, then the third. Eleanor had ups and downs. Days when she felt great, full of energy, with a sharp memory. Days when she could barely get out of bed, when even simple tasks seemed monumental. But James was there on all of them. On the good days, celebrating every victory, every bit of progress. On the bad days, holding her hand, offering words of encouragement, reminding her that it was temporary, that it would pass. Sarah was also a constant presence. She visited almost every day, bringing American food that Eleanor was missing, books, movies. They became very close during those months. You're lucky to have a brother like James, Eleanor told Sarah during one of those visits. And he's lucky to have you. I've never seen my brother so happy, so complete as when he's with you. Even now, with this whole situation? Especially now, because it's showing that your love is real. It's not just joy and laughter. It's also pain and struggle, and you're getting through it together. Sarah's words stayed with Eleanor. It was true, their love was being tested in a way she had never imagined, and it was passing the test. They were coming out stronger, more united. At the end of the third month, there was a final evaluation. Dr. Sterling gathered all the doctors involved in the treatment to discuss the results. James and Eleanor waited anxiously in the room. When Dr. Sterling finally came in, he had a smile on his face. I have good news. The best news possible, actually. Eleanor held James's hand tightly. The treatment was a complete success. Your tests show that the progression of the disease has not only stopped, but regressed in some areas. Your cognitive function is better now than when you arrived here. Does that mean she's cured? James asked. There's no cure for Mrs. Harrison's condition, but there is control. And we've managed to establish exceptional control. If she continues with the maintenance treatment and follows all the guidelines, there's a real chance she'll live a long, healthy life with minimal or no symptoms. Eleanor began to cry. James hugged her, moved as well. Thank you, Dr. Sterling. Thank you for everything. Don't thank me. You two did the hard work. Your dedication, the love you have for each other, was essential to the success of the treatment. I've seen many cases throughout my career, but few couples as committed as you. The preparations for the return to the United States began immediately. There were prescriptions to renew, guidelines to follow, contacts with local doctors to continue the follow-up care. Everything was organized with care. Sarah took them to the airport. She hugged her brother and sister-in-law affectionately. Take care of yourselves, and come back to visit me soon, but under happier circumstances. We will. Thank you for everything, Sarah, for opening your home, for being there. You were essential. We're family, that's what we do. The flight back was completely different from the flight there. 3 months ago they had been terrified, not knowing what the future would bring. Now they were coming back with hope, with plans, with a future ahead of them. When the plane landed in the United States, Eleanor looked out the window with tears in her eyes. Home. Finally. Welcome back, said James, kissing her hand. Margaret and Claire were waiting for them at the airport. The reunion was emotional. Margaret hugged her daughter for long minutes, crying and thanking God for her recovery. Claire hugged them both, happy to have her sister back. "You look beautiful," said Claire. "Different. Lighter." "I feel different. Like I've been reborn." "This is a new beginning for the two of you," said Margaret. "It is. And we're going to cherish every moment." At home, everything was exactly as they had left it. But at the same time, everything was different. Because they were different, they had been through a trial that could have destroyed them. But instead, it made them stronger. That night, lying in their own bed, in their own room, Eleanor sighed with contentment. "I miss this place so much." "Me too. Sarah's house is great, but it's not our home. James, I want to start planning the vow renewal. I want to do it soon. Whenever you want, even tomorrow if you'd like." Eleanor laughed. "It doesn't have to be tomorrow, but soon. I want to gather family and friends. I want to celebrate life, love, the second chance we were given." "Then let's do it. Let's put on the best celebration you've ever seen." The preparations began the following week. Eleanor wanted something simple but meaningful. At the hotel where they had spent their honeymoon, with the most important people in their lives present. But before that, there was something they needed to do. One afternoon they went to an animal shelter. "Are you sure?" asked James. "Absolutely. We promised we'd adopt a dog." Inside the shelter, dozens of dogs watched them, full of hope. Eleanor walked slowly, looking at each one. And then she saw him. A medium-sized dog with brown fur and sad eyes. He was in the corner, quiet, watching. "That one," she said. "I want that one." The shelter worker smiled. "That's Buster. He was abandoned 6 months ago. He's a very affectionate dog, but he's shy. He needs patience." "We all need patience," said Eleanor. "And a second chance." Buster went home with them that day. At first he was scared, hiding under the table. But gradually, with care and patience, he began to trust. Within a few days, he was following Eleanor all over the house, lying at her feet, seeking affection. "I think he knows," said James one night, watching Buster sleep in Eleanor's lap. "He knows you've been through hard times too. You understand each other." Maybe, or maybe he just knows this is a home full of love. The date for the vow renewal was set. 1 month later, at the same hotel, in the same ballroom where they had gotten married 23 years earlier. Invitations were sent out. Dresses and suits were bought. Everything was carefully planned. But 2 days before the ceremony, Eleanor had an episode. She was making breakfast when she suddenly stopped, confused, looking around as if she didn't know where she was. "Eleanor!" called James, worried. She didn't answer. She just stood there, her gaze lost. James rushed to her. "Eleanor, are you okay?" Seconds that felt like an eternity passed. Then Eleanor blinked and looked at him. "I'm sorry. I had a blank moment. I forgot where I was for a second. We need to call Dr. Robert." "No, I'm fine. It was just a moment. It's past." But James was frightened. He called the doctor as soon as Eleanor left the kitchen. Dr. Robert was reassuring. Occasional episodes are normal, especially during times of stress or fatigue. As long as they're not frequent and don't last long, there's no cause for concern, but keep up with the regular checkups. James calmed down a bit, but he kept a close eye on Eleanor over the following days. There were no other episodes. On the day of the vow renewal, the hotel was beautiful. Flowers everywhere, soft music playing, family and friends gathered together. Eleanor was radiant in a simple yet elegant white dress. James wore the same suit from their wedding, which still fit perfectly. This time they wrote their own vows. When it was James's turn to speak, he held Eleanor's hands and looked deep into her eyes. "Eleanor, 23 years ago I promised to love you in sickness and in health, in joy and in sorrow, until death do us part. I didn't know that day how deeply those words would be tested. But now I know, and I can say, with absolute certainty, that I would keep those promises 1,000 times over. because you are the love of my life, my best friend, my partner. And no matter what the future holds, I will be by your side. Always." Tears streamed down Eleanor's face. She took a deep breath before speaking. "James, I almost lost you. Because of my fear, my insecurity, my inability to trust. But you showed me what true love is. You stayed. When I was sure you would leave, you stayed. You fought for me when I was already ready to give up. You showed me that love isn't just pretty words. It's action. It's sacrifice. It's being there even when it's hard, and I promise here and now that I will never hide anything from you again. We'll face everything together. Whatever comes, let it come. But it will come to both of us, together, always together." There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Sarah was crying openly. Margaret held on to her daughter, Claire. Mrs. Gable wiped away her tears with a handkerchief. Even Buster, who was quietly in the corner of the room, seemed moved. The officiant smiled. "Do you renew the vows you made 23 years ago?" "We do," they both said in unison. "Then by the power vested in me, I declare you husband and wife once again. You may kiss the bride." James and Eleanor kissed to the applause of everyone. It wasn't a movie kiss, dramatic and Hollywood style. It was a real kiss, full of love, of promises, of hope. The celebration that followed was lively. There was dancing, laughter, stories from the past being retold. Sarah gave an emotional speech about her brother and sister-in-law. Claire told embarrassing stories about Eleanor from when they were kids. Mrs. Gable talked about how James had changed since he met Eleanor, becoming a better man. Late at night, when most of the guests had already left, James and Eleanor were alone in the ballroom. The music was still playing softly. They danced, close together, lost in the moment. "Thank you," said Eleanor. "For what?" "For not giving up on me, for fighting, for being here." "You don't have to thank me. There's no other place in the world I'd rather be." They kept dancing, savoring that moment of peace, of joy, of love. They knew the future would still bring challenges. Eleanor's condition had no cure. There would be more episodes, more doctor's appointments, more uncertainty. But there would also be love. There would be laughter. There would be moments like that one, where nothing else mattered except the two of them together. In the weeks that followed, life settled into a new normal. Eleanor resumed her activities, with moderation and always attentive to her body's signals. James went back to dedicating himself to the company, but with a new balance. Work was important, but no more important than being present. They started attending a support group for people with neurological conditions and their caregivers. There they encountered other stories, other couples facing similar challenges, and they realized they weren't alone. It was at one of these meetings that Eleanor met Mrs. Beatrice, a 72-year-old woman who had been living with the same condition for 15 years. 15 years? Eleanor couldn't believe it. "And you're doing well." "I'm fine, my dear. Of course I have my limitations. Some days are worse than others, but I have a good life. My husband has supported me from day one, just as yours is doing for you. Aren't you afraid of what might happen?" "Of course I am. Fear is human, but I don't let fear control my life. I take it one day at a time. I enjoy the good moments, and when the bad moments come, I face them with the help of those who love me." That conversation changed something in Eleanor. She realized she could have a long, full life even with the illness. It wouldn't be a life without challenges, but it would be a life worth living. 2 months after renewing their vows, Eleanor and James made another important decision. They went to an adoption agency. "We want to adopt a child," Eleanor announced. The social worker looked at them carefully. "Do you understand that the adoption process is long and complex, that there are evaluations, interviews, background checks?" "We understand," said James, "and we're ready for all of it. Is there anything in your lives we need to know? Any health conditions, financial problems, issues that could affect your ability to care for a child?" Eleanor and James looked at each other. They had discussed at length whether or not to tell about the illness. They decided on the truth. "I have a neurological condition," said Eleanor, "but it's under control. I'm in treatment, with regular medical follow-up, and I have my husband's full support." The social worker wrote everything down without any apparent judgment. "We'll need medical reports, and we'll assess whether the condition affects your ability to care for a child or not." I understand. The process was indeed long. Interviews, home visits, background checks. But Eleanor and James went through it all with patience and determination. 6 months later, they received the call. There was a child available for adoption, a 5-year-old girl named Lily. She had been taken from her biological parents due to neglect. She was shy but sweet. She needed a loving home. "Can we meet her?" asked Eleanor, her voice trembling with emotion. "Of course. I'll schedule a visit for next week." The meeting with Lily was magical. The girl entered the visiting room holding a caregiver's hand, eyes big and frightened. She had brown hair down to her shoulders and a shy smile. "Hi, Lily," said Eleanor softly. "My name is Eleanor, and this is James." Lily didn't respond. She just watched the two with curiosity. "Do you like dogs?" asked James. "We have a dog at home. His name is Buster. He's really sweet." Lily's eyes brightened a little. "I like dogs," she said quietly. "Then you're going to love Buster. He loves to play and give kisses, lots of kisses." Lily let out a shy little laugh. It was the beginning. The visits became regular. Twice a week, Eleanor and James went to the shelter to see Lily. Little by little, she opened up. She talked about her favorite things, about her friends at the shelter, about the dreams she had. "I always wanted to have a family," she confessed during one of the visits. "A real family, with a mom and a dad and a dog." "And you will," promised Eleanor. "If you want, you'll have all of that." "Do you want to be my family?" "We really do, if you want us to be." Lily looked from Eleanor to James. "And can I call you Mom and Dad?" "Yes, you can," said James, his voice choked with emotion. Lily smiled. For the first time since they had met, a genuine, full smile. The adoption process was finalized 3 months later. On the day they officially brought Lily home, there was a sign on the door that read, "Welcome, Lily." Buster was at the door, wagging his tail excitedly. Lily walked in slowly, looking around with wonder. Her own room had been carefully prepared, walls painted purple, her favorite color, a new bed with a unicorn comforter, toys and books waiting for her. "Is it all mine?" she asked in disbelief. "You're all mine," Camilla confirmed. Lily ran to hug Camilla, then James and even Buster. She was home. Finally home. The first few months with Lily were a period of adjustment. She had occasional nightmares, a result of the trauma from previous years. Sometimes she would wake up scared, not knowing where she was. But Camilla was always there to comfort her, to remind her that she was safe, that she was loved. "Are you going to leave me too?" Lily asked one of those nights after waking from a nightmare. "Never," Camilla promised. "Your father and I will always be here. You're our daughter now, forever." "But what if you get sick? The lady at the shelter said you have an illness." Camilla hadn't expected that question. She took a deep breath. "It's true, I do. But it's not an illness that stops me from being your mother. Sometimes I might forget things, I might need help. But none of that changes how much I love you. Will you forget me?" "Never. You're engraved on my heart. And hearts don't forget." Lily seemed satisfied with that answer. She went back to sleep in Camilla's arms, calm and safe. As the months went by, Lily blossomed. The shy, frightened girl gave way to a joyful, curious child, full of life. She loved playing with Buster, helping James in the garden, cooking with Camilla, and Camilla was doing well too. The episodes of forgetfulness were rare. The treatment was still working. She took her medications religiously, went to her therapies, followed all medical advice. But more important than all of that, she was happy. She had a husband who loved her unconditionally, a daughter who brought joy into her life, a dog who gave love without asking for anything in return, a complete family full of love. 1 year after the renewal of their vows on Lily's birthday, the whole family was gathered. Margaret and Claire, Sarah and her husband, Mrs. Gable, close friends. The house was full of life, laughter, and love. James watched it all with a smile on his face. Camilla was by his side, holding Lily in her arms as she blew out the candles on the cake. Buster barked excitedly. It was a scene of pure happiness. "What are you thinking about?" Camilla asked, noticing his distant gaze. "I'm thinking about how I almost lost all of this, how I almost let fear and insecurity destroy us. But you didn't, and here we are now, stronger than ever." "That's true, and I'm grateful every day to have you, to have Lily, to have this life we built together." Camilla kissed him gently. "I'm grateful too, for you, for our family, for the second chance we were given." Lily interrupted the romantic moment. "Mom, Dad, come sing Happy Birthday with me." They joined the group singing Happy Birthday with enthusiasm. It was a simple, ordinary moment, but at the same time extraordinary because it was real, it was theirs. That night, after everyone had left and Lily was asleep, Camilla and James sat on the couch. Buster slept at their feet. The house was quiet, at peace. "You know," Camilla said, "when I received the diagnosis, I thought my life was over. I thought I was going to lose everything, my mind, my marriage, my identity. But the opposite happened. I gained so much more than I lost." "What do you mean?" "I gained clarity about what really matters, about how much you mean to me, about the value of every moment. If it weren't for the illness, maybe we never would have adopted Lily. Maybe we never would have renewed our vows. Maybe we never would have truly appreciated what we have." That's an interesting way to look at it. I'm not saying I'm grateful for the illness, but I am grateful for what it taught us. About love, about resilience, about what really matters. James agreed. "You're right. And we know the future may still bring challenges, but now we know we can face them. Together." "Together," Camilla repeated, intertwining her fingers with his. They stayed there, in the dark, simply enjoying each other's presence. They didn't need words. The love between them was palpable, strong, unshakable. The following years were not without challenges. Eleanor had a few more severe episodes. Once, she completely forgot where she was for almost an hour. James stood by her side, patient and loving, until her memory returned. Lily grew up, becoming a brilliant and lively teenager. Sometimes she struggled to deal with her mother's condition, but Eleanor and James always talked openly with her, explaining, reassuring. "Is your mother sick?" a classmate of Lily's asked at school. "She has a condition, but it's under control, and she's the best mother in the world," Lily answered proudly. And it was true. Despite the challenges, Eleanor was a devoted and loving mother. She was present at every school recital, every soccer game, every important moment in Lily's life. Buster aged gracefully. At 15, he started having trouble walking. Eleanor and James took care of him with the same love and dedication he had always shown them. When he finally passed away, the family cried together, but they also celebrated the wonderful life he had. "Buster was the first member of our renewed family," Eleanor said, holding a photo of him. "He taught us about unconditional love, and he will always be a part of us," James added. Months later, they adopted another dog from the shelter, a female named Molly. Lily chose the name. Molly was energetic and playful, bringing new life into the house. As the years went by, Eleanor's condition remained stable. The treatments kept working. She had a good quality of life and could do most of the things she had always done. Of course, there were adjustments. She no longer drove, as a precaution. She had alarms on her phone to remind her to take medication and of important appointments. But she lived. She truly lived. James changed too. He became more present, more patient, more understanding. He learned that work, money, success, none of it mattered if he had no one to share it with. And he did. He had an incredible wife, a wonderful daughter, a life full of love. Mrs. Gable remained an important part of their lives. Even after retiring, she visited regularly, always bringing sweets and stories. She became like a grandmother to Lily. "You know," Mrs. Gable said to James on one of those visits, "I remember when you came to the office years ago, talking about your suspicions about Eleanor. You were so lost, so scared. I was a fool. No, you were human. You were afraid of getting hurt, but you chose love over fear, and that made all the difference. Thank you, Mrs. Gable, for always being here, for being our family. No need to thank me. You are my family too. When Lily turned 18, Eleanor and James threw her a surprise party. The whole family was there. Sarah came from Massachusetts, especially for the occasion. Margaret, now in her 70s but still active, made her granddaughter's favorite cake. Claire brought gifts. Lily was moved. You didn't have to do all this. Of course we did, Eleanor said. You are our daughter, our greatest joy. I know it wasn't always easy, dealing with my condition, but you were always understanding, always loving. Because you taught me what true love is, Mom. You and Dad. You showed me that a family isn't about perfection. It's about being there. It's about unconditional love. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. It was a moment of celebration, not just of Lily's birthday, but of everything they had built together as a family. Later, when the party was over, and Lily was opening presents with her cousins, James and Eleanor stepped out into the garden. The night was beautiful, stars shining in the sky. Do you remember, James said, that day at the hotel when I confronted you? When I thought I was losing you? How could I forget? It was one of the worst and best days of my life. Worst because I accused you unfairly, best because that's when you truly showed your love. When you had every reason to leave, to walk away, you stayed. You fought for me. That's true love. And I'd do it all again, 1,000 times. They held each other under the stars, two survivors of a storm that nearly destroyed them. But it didn't. It made them stronger. The following year, Lily started college. She decided to study psychology, inspired by her own experience and her desire to help other people going through difficult situations. Are you sure? Eleanor asked. Psychology is a difficult path. I'm sure. I want to help families like ours, families dealing with illness, trauma, and challenges. I want to show that it's possible to overcome. Eleanor hugged her proudly. Then go and be amazing, because you're capable of amazing things. With Lily in college, the house felt quieter, but not empty. Eleanor and James rediscovered life as a couple. They traveled, finally fulfilling their dream of going to Europe. Paris, Rome, Venice. Each city was a new adventure, a new memory created together. In Paris, at the top of the Eiffel Tower, James held Eleanor's hands. We made it, he said. We achieved all the dreams we had. And we created new ones along the way. Are you still afraid? Of the future? Of the illness? Sometimes, but not as much as before, because I know that no matter what happens, you'll be with me, and that's all I need. They kissed there on top of the world, two hearts beating as one. When they returned to the United States, a surprise was waiting. Lily had organized a family gathering. The whole family was there, including people Eleanor and James hadn't seen in years. What is this? Eleanor asked, confused. It's a celebration, Lily explained. A celebration of you two, of your love, of what you've built together. One by one, each family member shared stories, how Eleanor and James had inspired them, how their love was an example for everyone. Mrs. Gable spoke about James's transformation over the years, Sarah about Eleanor's resilience, Margaret about the pride she felt in her daughter. It was a night of love, gratitude, and recognition, and Eleanor and James were at the center of it all, surrounded by people they loved and who loved them back. You are my example, Lily said, closing the speeches. You showed me that true love exists. That family isn't about perfection. It's about accepting the imperfections and loving anyway. That challenges can destroy us or strengthen us, depending on how we face them. And you chose to be strengthened. Thank you for adopting me, for giving me a family, for showing me what unconditional love is. Eleanor and James hugged Lily tightly. There were no words to express what they felt in that moment. It was pure emotion, pure love. A few more years went by. Eleanor was now in her 50s. The illness was still there, but under control. She had learned to live with it, not to let it define her life. Lily graduated in psychology and started working at a clinic specializing in family therapy. She was exceptional at what she did, helping families overcome challenges, communicate better, and love each other more. She has a gift, James said proudly during one of the visits to Lily's clinic. She inherited it from you, the receptionist replied. "The love you show for each other and for your family is inspiring." James and Eleanor continued their routine. Regular medical appointments, daily medications, occasional moments of forgetfulness, but also travels, laughter, love. One afternoon, 25 years after the diagnosis, Eleanor had a more serious episode. She forgot where she was, who James was. It lasted almost 2 hours. James stayed by her side, patient, waiting for her memory to return. When it finally did, Eleanor wept in his arms. "I'm so afraid that one day it won't come back, that I'll be lost forever. That won't happen, and even if it does, I'll be here. I'll remind you every day of who you are, of who we are." "How can you be so sure?" "Because our love is stronger than any illness. It's stronger than forgetting. It's eternal." Those words comforted Eleanor. She knew he was right. Their love was special, unique. It had survived storms that would destroy most couples, and it would keep surviving no matter what came their way. Dr. Robert Miller, who had continued to follow Eleanor's case even after so many years, was impressed by her progress. "You're an extraordinary case," he told her during an appointment. "Most people with your condition don't have this quality of life after so many years. Why do I? Several factors: early treatment, strict adherence to medication, but mostly, I believe, because of love. Studies show that patients with strong emotional support have much better outcomes, and you have that in abundance." Eleanor smiled. "I really do. I'm very lucky." "It's not luck. It's achievement. You two worked for this. You fought for it." And it was true. The love between Eleanor and James wasn't luck. It was a choice. A daily choice to be present, to fight, to not give up, even when everything seemed lost. One night, lying in bed, Eleanor picked up the notebook she had written years ago. The notebook for James in case she forgot. She read it aloud, tears streaming down her face. "Do you remember when you wrote this?" James asked. "I do. I was so scared. I was sure I was going to lose everything, lose you." "But you didn't." "No. In fact, I gained so much more. I gained clarity about what really matters. I gained a complete family with Lily. I gained memories I'll keep forever, for as long as I can. And we'll keep making memories, every day." They fell asleep in each other's arms, as they did every night. Two hearts beating in sync, two souls united by a love that defied all odds. End of story. And you, dear listener, what did you think of this story of resilience and love? Do you believe James and Eleanor made the right decisions? How would you react in a similar situation? Leave your honest opinion in the comments. And if this story moved you, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other emotional stories like this one.